that is America's ass.
Right?
And I'm like,
His ass is so good in this movie.
I know!
Is it not an amazing
He
ass?
has an amazing ass. It's true.
They never really showed it off before, but holy fuck, man. He really works his glutes.
We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
You raise walls, I destroy them. Let's see who prevails.
Just because something works doesn't mean that it cannot be improved.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Allow my sword to join you in the fight against evil.
The world needs us to chase dreams.
We have to dedicate ourselves each and every single day to this fight because I can't do it alone.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Welcome to At the Movies, a Skiffy and Fantasy subcast about movie things.
Look, if you don't like my objectivist paradise, I'm just gonna make a better one with blackjack and hookers where people will be grateful for me.
I'm Sean.
I'm Stina.
I'm Trang.
And I'm Alex.
And if you haven't figured it out yet, we're talking about Avengers Endgame. Dun, dun, dun. And as always, we're going to start with our general reactions about the movie. This has obviously elicited a lot of responses on the interwebs. Many, many, many responses. And we will deign to not spoil anything until the spoiler wall. So now it's just general, cute little reactions. And I'm going to start by going straight to Trang.
I think my reaction is emotional, but I really enjoyed it. And it was a great ending for, I guess. I think because you said no spoiler walls,
I knew that a second you were struggling for words. I was like, she doesn't know what words she can say about this that won't give something away.
I know! I'm just like, wait, what do I say? Crap. Okay, well, it was emotional, I loved it, and I would watch it again. There you go.
Okay, well, I think that works. All right, well, then we'll jump to you, Stina. What did you think?
I was very happy with it. I too was very emotional. I felt like it rectified the heinousness of the previous film quite nicely. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And I consider it a 3 hanky film.
We're all being so super vague because we're so terrified to give anything away.
You did this, Sean. You did
all
it.
Right,
This
Alex,
is all your fault.
You? I did. I brought this upon the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're kind of past where spoilers are a thing. But, you know, your podcast, your rules. I'm not going to go Nick Fury about the rules. Anyway, so before I went and saw this movie, I actually ran a little Twitter poll that was, hey everyone, how angry do you think Alex is going to be after seeing Endgame? Because everyone got to witness my boundless rage for the steaming pile of fecal matter that got sprayed across the screen that was Infinity War. And the Twitter polls that said that everyone thought it was going to be like Extinction level event rage at Endgame. And, you know, actually, shockingly to everyone, I didn't hate it. I was not steamingly angry when I walked out of it, other than there were some things that we're going to talk about that I'm still a bit mad about, but I felt sufficiently pandered to be appeased, and I'm an emotionless monster who didn't cry at all.
Anyway, okay, so my general reaction, and then we can get through this painful part of the podcast to what we actually all want to do, which is to rage and cry and giggle about all of the specific things, which is that overall, I actually quite enjoyed this film. I will note that I ugly cried in this movie. Pretty harsh. And I suspect...
You are not the only one.
So normally I don't cry in public places. I usually do that kind of like bullshit manly, like try to like hold it back a little bit because I have been raised in a toxic masculine culture, and so I'm not allowed to cry in public. I cry like a baby at home when I'm by myself with my cat. But this movie, it was like, there's fucking nothing I could do about it. And I've just got like just tears and snot, like all this shit just down my face in this movie, which we'll, I'm sure, get into the specifics for. So in terms of like pure emotional reaction, this film gave me something that I don't normally get, which I guess is just uncontrollable emotional outbursts, which is kind of a nice thing. And it says a lot about what I probably will think about this film when we kind of dig into it, which I guess we're just going to do now, because let's just do it. Spoiler time. Let's do it. Spoiler wall up. Okay, so I guess I kind of want to start with kind of the negative stuff if we could, because I suspect we all have opinions about that scene, and that scene being the end of Black Widow, or the...
Oh, the planet of the dead ladies in fridges!
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I want to know. Why is it when everyone goes to the fucking planet of the dead ladies in fridges, and they meet the undead ghost Nazi, do they immediately, he's like, here's the explanation, they're like, okay, sounds good, you seem trustworthy.
Why is he there?
Really?
We don't know.
Well, he's there because in Captain America, the First Avenger, you actually see when they're like, Steve and the Red Skull are on the flying ship thing, and they get in the fight, and then they like break open the thing with the Tesseract in it, and then the Red Skull kind of like gets eaten and teleported away, so apparently that means he ends up being the ghost on the movie of the dead ladies in fridges.
That just flew right through my head. I think because when did that one come out again?
Over a decade ago.
Like 84 years ago.
Yeah, I was too young. I didn't even... It whooshed right over my head, honestly. I mean, Iron Man 1 came out in 2008, guys. I was in 6th grade.
Jesus Christ.
God, I hate you. So, I mean, the thing is, Trang, the only reason I remembered is because before we went and saw Endgame, Karina made me rewatch a bunch of the old ones to remind me why I still loved these movies, because Infinity War had made me hate everything about the MCU. And I was reminded, oh yeah, the first Avenger, and then we watched Winter Soldier, and that was really good. So it's just that the first Avenger was, like, in my mind fresh. I just, like, my headcanon forever is basically that everyone just goes to this planet, and it has some kind of, like, mental breakdown field where they're just, like, listen to this obviously untrustworthy guy, and then the Red Skull is just a total dick. Where it's like, okay, yeah, maybe to get the Soul Stone, you have to give it a soul. But he's like, ha ha ha, it has to be the person you love, when literally you could just throw, like, a hamster down there and you would get the Soul Stone, and that's my headcanon, and you're not talking me out of it.
That fits. That strangely fits. Yes.
Wait, would that really apply?
Well, then it makes Thanos' thing in Infinity War less horrible.
Well, he threw down Gamora. I'm still pissed off about that.
Yeah, and that is, his horrible abusive relationship with her is acceptable as love anyway, but we're not here to re-prosecute Infinity War.
No, but this is a problem with that whole sequence, which is that unless, like, you're doing a lot of real contortion-y brain shit to try to make things make sense, that whole bit doesn't actually make sense, and it makes even less sense here, because the whole premise is you have to give up the thing you love most. That's what you're giving to earn the Soul Stone. And in this sequence, right, we have Hawkeye, who actually loves a family that has now been killed, and he's doing everything he's doing out of rage for his family, because Hawkeye has decided to, like, go his full emo murder phase, right? And so when they get to this sequence, the logical conclusion is the person that has the most to lose between the two of them is actually Black Widow. If Hawkeye falls, if she puts him down there, she's the one that's actually losing the thing she probably loves most, that is at least a person. Because obviously the connection between her and Hawkeye is pretty strong. We've seen that all the way through, at least since the first Avengers movie, right? They have all of this history, that the whole Budapest thing comes up again in this movie. We don't actually know what Budapest is, but it's a thing that they share. But when she sacrifices herself it seems like what she's thinking is, I want him to have his family back, and I am paying a debt, because if we remember earlier in the first Avengers, she talks about like her ledger being red, and she's trying to repay that debt. But it doesn't make sense because there's no reason we should think at this point that Hawkeye's biggest loss is going to be to lose Black Widow, not his wife or one of his kids.
Right.
Or all of his kids. Right? That's the thing he clearly loves the most. He quit the Avengers and went into his little self-exile thing, right?
A racist serial killing spree.
There's also
oh my
that.
god.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that, please, real quick later. Oh my god.
But the real crime is the haircut.
I guess, like, the only way you can read that scene to make sense is if, well, I'm sacrificing myself to take the thing I love, but, like, I'm losing it because I'm dying. And so I lose the thing I love most. But, like, there's no reason for us to accept that as the interpretation in that sequence. So I just found it, like, it was just really dumb. It didn't make any fucking sense. Like, yeah, I get that the fridging of women, like, why does it have to be another woman? Why couldn't it just be, like, equal opportunity? Like, fucking anybody could get thrown down in that shit.
And we're going to fridge the lady so that the racist serial killer can have a redemption.
But he doesn't even redeem himself. He
literally didn't do much later, honestly.
I mean, he kind of just goes back to status quo. Like, everyone just kind of ignores the fact that he'd been murdering people all over the world.
Yeah, there's more reaction to Thor's potbelly than there is to Hawkeye being a racist serial killer.
Yeah, no, I hated it. It should have been Hawkeye that died. It totally should have been Hawkeye that died. It should not have been Black Widow. I was really, really pissed off. I was just so pissed off because this whole time there's only been one friggin' woman on the team, and of course she has to die. What the fuck? I just will repeat what I said. I paraphrased Wednesday Addams. You know, well, they have many boys.
But I mean, you know, they were really sad when she died, and then Hulk threw a bench into a lake.
Because that made so much sense.
That's the other thing that I found really irritating about this is, technically speaking, the longest running Avenger is actually Black Widow. She's the one that keeps the Avengers going after the Thanos incident, right? She's the one running everything, right? Even Cap has sort of taken a step back. He's kind of gone to his, like, the post-war thing. He's doing the, like, I'm post-war, so now we're going to do our sort of group sessions, try to help people, which we can talk about later.
Tony Stark was like, bye, peace out, literally.
Right, he sort of, he went off and went and worked kind of government, and then he wanted to leave it all behind, right? And effectively he did in Infinity War, he was trying to, and then he got sucked back in. But the weird thing is, Tony gets this huge scene at the end where everybody's sort of mourning him, but she doesn't. She only gets that one moment in the middle of the film. Right, like they kind of like vaguely mourn her the way that you mourn a character because you're in media res, you're like in the middle of all of the action. But they give a whole sequence at the end where they talk about Tony being dead, and while I like some of the optics of that because they talk about family and you see all the families that exist and the non-families because Nick Fury for some reason has a wife, but yet his wife is never present. But why couldn't they just? This is an easy solution. You just have Tony. And then you have something from Black Widow, and then they both have their little, like, boat thing, right, that kind of goes out.
Yeah, wait, now that you mention it, why didn't they do anything for her?
Right, they, like, Hawkeye mentions her when he's talking to Scarlet Witch, right? They have, like, their little moment where they're both talking about the things that they've lost, that they care deeply about, which are people. But that's it, right? And there's no other mention in that sequence, and
Does Vision count as people?
Oh, I completely forgot. I totally was thinking she was talking about her brother. I don't know why. I'm a dumbass.
Oh, right. I forgot him too.
She could have been talking about both of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why is Vision dead? Just build him again. He's a fucking Build-A-Bear. Just put the shit back in.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he need the stone? The stone was part of him.
Tony figured out how to do fucking time travel. He can't figure out how to rebuild a fucking giant android Build-A-Bear? Like, come on.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, now that you mention it, it really, like, they should have done something for her, because she has been more, like, the most like, for me at least, one of the most prominent Avengers besides, the main guys, but like she was the only girl and she was a badass girl. Come on, like have someone fight like her. She didn't have superpowers and she still kicked ass. Come on. So find me someone like that and then we can talk. But no. So you're not gonna give my girl like any tribute. You're just gonna be like, oh, we're gonna mourn her and then move on.
Here, I'll shed a tear. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yep, it was deeply upsetting.
Yeah, that whole sequence I didn't like, but I will say that I did like Tony Stark's arc. The way that it ends here, I mean, it's obviously not the ideal arc, but I do like that when we think about how this film is the end point for the MCU's first 3, 4, 12 phases, however many phases they have. As the end point to that, I like where they ended up with Tony, which is, he always has been this impulsive character that can't seem to like stop himself from doing what he knows or believes to be right. And in something like, say, Civil War, we have good reason to think that he's wrong in that sequence, or at least the morality is very complicated. Here we kind of like totally get why he is not wanting to break all of these rules and like step back, but he can't help himself. He has to do this thing that is bigger than himself, even though what he's doing ultimately is trying to save the family he's loved. Because this is, I think, the first time we've actually seen Tony when he's genuinely happy.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen that before. There's always sort of mixtures, but like even in like Iron Man 3, he finds that kid, but he's suffering PTSD, something bad. Right? This is the first time we've seen him where he's happy, and so there's actually something deeply tragic about his, like, we're just get it out there, the thing that made most of us, except Alex, cry, which is that Tony Stark dies, saving billions and trillions of people.
I will say that Tony dying was the thing that came closest to making me have an emotion.
Dude, I was not prepared at all.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
No, because I knew, right, like, Chris Evans, Captain America, was like, oh, he's done. Because I knew he was gonna die, but, like, in some way. I didn't know how he was gonna die. But he didn't, but then I was not prepared for my man, Tony Stark, to go down like that. Pretty epic way, but I've loved, like, literally, I've been Team Iron Man since, like, the first movie. Because he was such, like, a great character, and then I basically grew up with like Iron Man and Tony Stark, so seeing him go out like that, I was just like, oh my god, I'm not at all prepared for this.
I had mixed feelings about him because, like many white male superhero characters, his superpower was basically lots of money
and smarts and smarts
and lots of privilege
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and that is basically his character. So I've always had mixed feelings about him. I was sad that we had to let him go, but on the other hand, I was really kind of okay with that because I am ready for some different types of superheroes.
Like now we have so many new generations of the MCU universe. Like we have so many new characters now that like I guess kids now are gonna grow up with them. So that's like really amazing.
I think it's great.
And there's a turning of the mantle here. I mean, not from Tony to anybody in particular, although there are some rumors that possibly Riri Williams will show up, or some sort of other female Iron Man character will appear to take the role, but I don't know if that's just straight up rumor. But we do get the Cap thing, because Cap is effectively dead. He just doesn't actually die on screen. He does his like weird time travel thing, because this whole film is about time travel. He goes back in time, and then he's supposed to put all the stones back exactly where they were so they don't fuck up the timeline, and then he decides, fuck it, I'm just going to stay and be with Peggy Carter, which is really cute and sweet. And then
old.
He just grows old, and effectively he's going to just die of old-ass age.
Old age, yep.
But this has one of the most important moments, I think, in the entire MCU, which is a thing that happens in the comics, and which I'm sure the internet is raging about, which is that he's effectively handed over the mantle to Sam Wilson. You can be Captain America. Like, Captain America doesn't belong to Steve Rogers.
To just him, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that they have the moment where he asks him, like, how does it feel? And Sam Wilson says, like, it belongs to somebody else. And he basically tells him, but it doesn't. It's like, it belongs to you. Like, it could be to anybody. It's sort of this big reminder that, like, the American mantle doesn't, like the Captain American mantle as the symbol of America, does not belong to just one class of people. It belongs to a lot of different types of people. Which this film, I love that it did this at a bunch of different points as a kind of reminder. So it did it at the end with Cap handing over the mantle to Sam Wilson, which I really swear to God, if they don't do like a Captain America 4 that's Sam Wilson, I'm going to be mad. But they did it at the beginning with the little, what do you call that, group session, sort of support group, where it's them, Cap is leading this, trying to help them, these people, these everyday people kind of get through the fact that they're now 5 years out from this Thanos garbage, and they don't know how to fix it. They don't think they can fix it, so we just have to figure out how do we make things move on. And there's this moment where this character, we find out he's gay, right? He's this gay guy, and Cap's response is, "Cool, that's great."
I have some feelings about that, by the way.
I get that there's some negative reactions to that, and Alex, it'd be great to hear your take on it. Personally, I really liked it because Cap comes from an era that was incredibly homophobic, and the fact that he just sort of goes, "That's great," and just sort of accepts it, I think is a kind of a nice reminder that if he's going to be symbolic of America, which I get this is very, US centric, I like that that's the kind of message that they're sending, which is this isn't an America where Cap has any particular dislike of anyone other than like villainous purple dudes, which he doesn't like. So, but Alex, please, what did you take of that opening sequence? Curious.
So initially when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, cool. Hey, gay people exist in the MCU. Well, that's exciting. It's nice to know that, we're a thing. And then it honestly, I wouldn't have this shitty attitude about it that I have if the fucking Russos hadn't been going around and being like, see, we put a gay character in the MCU. He's canonically gay. Please pat us on our butts. And I'm like, it's like a dude with no name who you fridged his boyfriend. Like,
yeah.
So you gave us, thank you for giving us a nameless gay extra, which I know is played by one of the directors. And at the same time, you managed to neatly fit the bury the gays trope into this too. Thanks?
That takes talent.
Right?
All in what, 30 seconds?
Yeah. And yes, on one hand, it's really great to see Steve Rogers get to be like, hey, it's not a thing and everything is normal. At the same time, as someone who exists as a queer person in America, where it's not a thing, at least in my friend group, and I know it's not the same everywhere, it's really shitty in some places, and maybe that's who that was for, that character was not in there for gay people. That character was in there for straight people to make them feel like allies.
Especially with the way the Russos talk about it. It's like this weird thing where
yes,
people who make movies want to like tell us how much, like, look how much we care about diversity. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just let the story fucking do the work. Stop trying to like make it like, it's like they're getting brownie points. Like you're going to get magic ally points.
In that way, to me, it was honestly, the more I heard about it, the more upsetting it got because, it was basically like a gay character was inserted in a framing that would be comfortable for straight people because he only talks about being gay and you don't have to see him getting gay cooties on anything. So there's that. It's a scene that can easily be cut out in international releases. So it's not exactly a brave move. And then it begins to take on this stench of, you ungrateful queers, we finally gave you a gay character and you're still not happy? And now they're being like, hey, like one of the heroes, they've been kind of like gay all along, but just secretly. And I was like, oh, a whole gay with a name. You could knock me over with a feather. Thanks.
It's the J.K. Rowling thing. Like, by the way, this character's gay.
Right? Yeah, so that is why I have had like an increasingly pissy reaction to it. And honestly, a lot of other people in the community I know are just like, you mention it to them and there's like eye rolling and like, and you know, it's just like kind of insulting.
Wait,
the way the whole thing came out.
I might have to rewatch that because I don't remember that part at all.
I mean, you might have blinked and missed it, but it was the first gay character ever in the MCU, and that's the saddest statement.
Oh my god.
All right, so let's move on to another topic. So I'm going to jump over to you, Stina. Is there something in particular you would like to talk about this movie?
The thing that really made this movie for me was like I said before, the previous movie pissed me off so damn bad. I actually said out loud, "Oh no, they didn't do that." And my husband had to spend a good part of the evening calming me down because I was so pissed off that they had killed off Black Panther. So here we are again in the theater, and my heart is not in this film. It's kind of half out during this whole time. I'm so pissed off, and then the scene happens where Black Panther and company just walk into and the entire theater totally screamed. Everybody started sobbing. It was amazing. That was incredible. I'm not sure that it was worth all the really pissing me off so bad to begin with. I'm not sure about that because it came off as so, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, racist that they had done that. And my husband was just like, trust me, they know where the money is coming from, and there's no way that they would just let that sit. And it just made me so mad. That I felt was like really well done, and I bawled my eyes out. And then the other scene that I just kept crying after scene at that point. The scene where like all of the women, all of the lady characters were together, and they were gonna go fight.
Yes!
Yeah, that was like maximum pandering, and that made me happy.
That was awesome.
And the thing is, I heard that there were nerd boys out there on the internet that were pissed off about that. I was like, it was 15 seconds of a film. Get over yourselves.
Yeah, they can just eat all the shit, as far as I'm concerned.
They can shove it, honestly.
No, they can't eat the shit. No. I want to fertilize crops with that. They can go eat their own toenails, those stupid fucker.
I agree.
Honestly, like, out of, this movie was almost like 2.5, 3 hours long, and like,
3 hours.
15 seconds of it was like a group of badass women beating the shit out of, like, bad guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Get over yourself, honestly. I
mean, this isn't surprising, like, because they're literally at this moment having a fucking shit fit over the Batwoman CW show trailer that just came out, because they're so upset that Batman would abandon his city and that the woman would do Batman-y things and would say things about, like, taking credit because she's a woman and blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't surprise me because these people seem not to really pay that close attention to the story being made, or don't seem to be bothered all that much when there's shit that's obvious fan service for them. Mm-hmm. And this 15-second bit,
that's how it's expected, right? That's what's expected. Fan service for them. But fan service for other people, can't have that.
I should clarify. I should probably say not actually fan service for them because they have probably not actually read the fucking comics, which is why when they say shit, they always sound fucking stupid. Because they're always like, how dare you? And I'm like, they literally had like 35 comics for like 6 years on this shit. And you're just now figuring out this was a story and they're just looking for things to be pissed off about that involve women, basically.
Yep.
Yes. Or all that business about, years and years and years of Steve Rogers punching the shit out of Nazis, and then they act surprised that Steve Rogers punched the shit out of Nazis.
Shocking. I love that moment, though. I thought that was I was giddy. I was doing the, like, like, and clapping my hands together and just really excited about it.
I was too loud in the theater, even as my boyfriend. I was like, you fucking go, girls.
Oh my god, everybody in the theater that I was in is just full of really awesome people because everybody was all at once. It was one of those really cool theater experiences where the entire audience was like in it and everybody was on the same page.
I mean, for in the theater I was in, people were excited about like that moment, but the moment when everyone really lost their shit was when Steve picked up Mjolnir.
Right?
Oh,
that was so cool.
My god. I lost my
Picked
shit
up Meow?
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was really cool. And then the reaction from Thor of, I knew it! And
I
was
knew
like,
he was
"Fuck
worthy!"
Yes! Yes!
Well, I mean, what was it? In like the previous Avengers, Steve managed to like inched it off during that little competition.
So in Age of Ultron. It was in Age of Ultron. Yeah.
He managed to inch it off when everybody else couldn't. So that was like a pre-sign right there.
And there's a lovely fan theory which I just like, which is that Steve didn't want to hurt Thor's ego, and so he knew he could lift it, but he just let it inch and just left it at that, just so that Thor's ego didn't get too hurt. Which
I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but it might have just been me, but when that scene where Thor has his two armors and he calls down the lightning, it actually also hit Steve.
Oh.
It was around Steve as well.
Huh.
Not around
Whoa.
Iron Man. It was around Steve and Thor. I saw that. I remember that.
that's cool.
That was like a pre-thing. Like, not everybody spotted that. So I rewatched like certain things and it said that like it was around Steve. And I was like, holy frick, that makes so much sense now.
I love that. I also wanted to bring up Thor when we're ready. I wanted to talk about Thor when we're ready. So carry on.
I have a lot of things to say about Thor.
Oh, I have some feelings.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the Thor thing, because I know this is another controversy. It seems like we're like talking through a lot of the stuff that's controversial, with the exception of the sequence we just did, which is about the thing that was delightful and was controversial to a class of people that we actually don't give a shit about.
The whole him dealing with all of his feelings. And he's a character who doesn't deal with feelings. I mean, that's one of the things he's kind of famous for, is to not deal with his feelings. He just laughs it off and downs a beer.
He downed too many beers.
Too many beers and ended up with that beer belly. No, that was great though. I loved the way but I hated the way people made him like it was supposed to be a joke or something, and that
exactly
that was wrong.
That was so upsetting.
That was very wrong. This is all this shit that it has been building up all of this time for however many centuries. And he just, I don't know, I didn't like that it was supposed to be the butt of a joke. And the nice part about all of that is like the audience I was in, nobody treated like that was funny.
Oh, there were a lot of people laughing about Fat Thor in my theater, and it made me super uncomfortable. And I mean, again, back to my point of the Avengers spend more time picking on Thor's beer gut than they do about Clint being a racist serial killer with the worst haircut in the world. And I just...
What is that hair, honestly?
Oh god, it's so bad. It's so terrible. And like, and Thor is not like my personal favorite character, but the thing is, the Asgardians as a whole are my favorite part of the MCU, and I think it's the reason why I went into Endgame where I was like willing to not hate it, but I didn't want to like it, which I think is why I ended up being an emotionless robot who didn't cry at anything, because in Infinity War, the Russos had already destroyed everything that I loved about the MCU. And they had shit all over it because they took everything that Taika Waititi did in Thor Ragnarok, where it finally felt like someone really fucking got Thor and Loki. And then they were like, and then they just fucking erased it. And they erased it in such a way that it was never gonna come back. So then, when they moved on to this new phase with Thor, I was like, okay, this isn't, how many fucking times does Thor need to learn that he's worthy? And, how many times are you going to make him re-prosecute the same character arc? But whatever. I think part of the problem is that people don't know how to fucking write Thor, and they don't understand how to handle him. And that's why they kind of went with this direction, because they were like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And I think it could have been, and at times was, a really good place for the character to be, with as fucked up as they made everything about the Asgardians, as badly as they messed it up. Like, maybe they could get something good out of it, and then they just made it into a fucking joke. And where I was just like, really, really done with Endgame is when Thor gets to go have that amazing scene with his mom. And then as he's leaving, in a shitty line that you can tell they fucking added in post-production, like this was a deliberate choice they went back to do, she's like, eat a salad! Ha ha ha, making fun of fat people is super funny! Like, fuck you people. I mean, not like you on the podcast. I mean, like, everyone who was involved in that decision.
Honestly, they really could have done a better job with Thor.
Oh god, yes.
I love Thor. I love him so much, and I love that the meaning of, like, him processing everything that happened, right? Like, if we were in that situation, God, I don't know how I'd handle it either. Like, all my friends are, like, gone and all that stuff. Like, there's different ways to cope with, and whatever, like, he went through, him trying to figure out, I felt like his emotions were, like, he wasn't even sure of his own emotions, but he knew he was, like, unable to deal with them, and the way that they wrote that, just his storyline, I don't know, I was a bit kind of let down with Thor's story. Is that valid for me to say? Like, I don't know. I just felt like
valid. I don't even.
That's super valid. I mean, I just went on like a foamy rant about everything they did with the Asgardians, basically personally pooped in my cereal as a fan.
Like, I don't know, everybody else had something they were, like, working for, or something that they were, you know, they felt like their story was so important and impactful. And then you have Thor, who's locked himself up in his house, whatever that is, I don't remember, and he's just eating and drinking beer and all that stuff and hanging, and he was supposed to be king, and then they're just like, let's just make him be, like, not what he's supposed to be, and, like, just make him look sadder. And I'm like, everyone's sad, but you're gonna do Thor like that? Really?
Yeah. But I do understand a little bit. I like that he was processing it. The dude that doesn't supposedly feel any emotions really was the one that was processing all the emotions for everyone, while Black Widow was holding everything together. She was the little Dutch boy with her finger in the dike. It reminded me, like, in families, everyone has a particular role, right? That you end up getting stuck with. It was like he was the one. I just wish they had dealt with his dealing with his emotions and the issues that he was having, and it was
that's kind of what I meant. Like, I felt like they should have wrote him, like, dealing with this a little bit better than just shoving him in and then being like, this is what's gonna happen to you. Well,
I guess that whole sequence for me made a lot of sense precisely because of the expectations of Thor. You know, so Thor's whole arc in at least the Thor movies has been varying levels of trying to prove himself. The very first Thor film, he literally gets exiled by his family, effectively, specifically by Loki. But he gets shunned by his own father for being a petulant man baby, and has to learn, I need to learn humility. Like, just because I have superpower doesn't mean I'm better than everybody else, that I actually need to find something worthy. And then we get to the second one, right? Thor, the Dark Elves.
Dark World. We don't talk about that one. It's a bit of a mess. And I say this as someone who loves the Thor movies above all things. It's a bit of...
But it's a similar narrative, right? He's trying to not just prove himself, he's trying to prove himself as capable of being a king. Because at the end of the first Thor movie, he sort of, like, his father tells him he is, but he's like, I still have a lot to learn, right? And that's the whole arc of the first film, is like learning humility and learning you don't know all your shit, but you still gotta learn shit. And then the second one is like, I may actually be capable of being king. And then the third one is like, I'm king, and everything goes fucking awful for me because the goddamn end of the world happens, and then I do the thing that I do all of this work to save my people, and they get fucking eradicated almost entirely, right? There are like, what, maybe 100 of them left, right? An entire world gone. He's lost his brother, who was choked before him. He's lost almost all of his people, and then obviously half of them after Thanos snaps his fingers are gone, right? So I get it that Thor is doing everything he can to not deal with a pain that probably most of us will never ever experience, which is the pain of basically losing everything that matters and realizing that your power means fuck all in any of that. I mean, he basically witnessed the genocide of his own people, and he could do nothing to stop it.
That's true.
Yeah, I get it. For Thor, this character who has always kind of been like, I don't really want to deal with my emotions, I want to kind of push him away, to he's just flat out not doing it. He's the character who Stark kind of does. He does some things to try to help himself. So when we see the Iron Man where he's doing the thing where he's like inside of a simulation and he's basically designed that for therapy for himself. Thor doesn't have that. He's doing video games and drinking fuck tons of beer to avoid having to deal with his monumental failure. And then what he gets is he's fine. I'm going to get involved in all this. And then they go and kill Thanos a little bit earlier than that. That doesn't make him feel better. And then he goes back in time and he's like, I have all these moments I could have with my family. But like, I also want to stop it, but I also can't deal with it. It's too much fucking shit going on, right? He's back at home. He's back at home with his own people, all of whom are dead. They're all gone. So what is he supposed to do? Suck it up? But
I don't think anyone actually disagrees with you. My entire objection, and I want to be very clear since apparently a lot of people, every time I bitch about the way Thor is treated, people are like, oh, you just, blah, blah, blah. The only problem I have with it, other than I hate everything that they did to the Asgardians in Infinity War, is I don't like that they turned it into a joke.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, he became a joke, basically.
Yeah. Because the thing is, everything you're talking about is this really important emotional stuff that was there, and then every time it starts kind of being like, going to a genuine place, then his mom tells him to eat a salad because he's fat. That's the problem I have.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from.
Totally valid.
It's just like there's finally a fat character in there, and everyone just talks about how fat he is. As a fat person, it's very hurtful.
I guess I don't quite. I just come from a different point of view, I guess, but that's fine.
On like a happier note.
Yes.
Come on, Alex, you can do it. You can say something happy. You can do it.
Well, okay. There were little scenes everywhere that I loved, like, the whole thing where Steve's going into the elevator in the past, and you're like, oh shit, it's gonna be another elevator fight scene, and instead he does the Hail Hydra thing, and that was fucking amazing.
That seemed like a reference to the comics when they had him be a Hydra agent.
Oh yeah, it was like a giant middle finger. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love how I guess like one of the things that was really funny, and I think I laughed for a good like minute or so, was when he sees his past self unconscious and he goes, huh, that is America's ass.
Right?
And I'm like,
his ass is so good in this movie.
I know.
Is it not an amazing ass?
He has an amazing ass. It's true.
They never really showed it off before, but holy fuck, man. He really works his glutes.
Yeah?
I mean, you see those thighs. Come on, man.
I know they were good, but they hit it before, but now they gave us like lovely contours of his ass. We're like, I don't know, whatever. I just want that on my wall. That's all I want. I'm objectifying Captain America. That's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm a monster.
I'm going to say that the fridge logic of the time travel plot was entertainingly terrible.
And kind of self-aware, maybe?
Well, I mean, what I just love is they go to great pains to be like, it's not like Back to the Future. It's not like Back to the Future. It's not like these other things. There are these rules. And then they're immediately like, and then Nebula's gonna shoot her past self. And that's okay for reasons. And then we're gonna take, like, past Thanos and then, like, kill him before he can do the snap, but it's fine. And I was like...
I honestly was so confused. I'm sorry.
It was very confusing and stupid.
I'm sitting there, like, trying to see this movie, right? Trying to enjoy it. And then they're trying to explain this whole timeline thing. And I'm like, but wait, wouldn't this mean that this happens? But then plot hole, like, what? I was so confused. Like, it's taking me out of the movie.
So the best thing, the rule about time travel movies really is just don't pay attention to the rules at all. Like, I'm glad they mentioned Hot Tub Time Machine in this, which is a time travel movie that basically doesn't care all that fucking much about trying to logic any of it. It just says, fuck it, we're changing the timeline, done, and moving on. And they mention it here as one of the time travel movies, and I cracked up so much when they mentioned that movie, because that movie's fucking ridiculous, and is kind of awful. But, yeah, so, and they bring up, like, 9 time travel movies. And really, it just comes down to, it's just like Star Trek technobabble.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my understanding of the nerd defense of it is that the Infinity Stones make it okay because reasons. But it was entertaining, like the time heist thing was entertaining when it wasn't interminable. But it was like, it was fun. It was very silly. It was wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah. What about the merged Bruce Banner Hulk? What did you all think of that?
Oh my god!
I thought it was really sad that happened off screen.
It was so weird for me, because I'm like, in my mind, right? I'm like, Bruce Banner. No, Hulk is calm, sciencey guy. And then Hulk is Hulk smash, destroy everything. And then when you merge them, I was like, I don't know how to compute this.
It made me think, the moment I immediately thought, if they don't do a Hulk movie very soon, we're all poor for it, was when he's sitting in the back of that truck when they're going to visit Thor. And it's like the cute music on, he's just sitting, and he's massive in this truck. And I was like, this has to be a movie. Like, this is like a comedy. Like, you could just have Hulk and any other of the MCU characters, like Valkyrie, anybody, and just have them
Valkyrie
like,
and Thor back again. Oh, that would be so funny.
Any of that, where you could just have a Hulk movie that's just kind of delightfully silly and joyful. Because that's kind of the vibe I get from this Hulk. It's a character who, for the first time ever, seems actually legitimately happy in his life. Which is nice.
I kind of assume that's why we're never going to get another Hulk movie, because they were basically like, here you go, here's his character resolution, and he might just like have cameos in later movies where he's like the science dude since Tony cacked it.
Well, basically it's like the OG Avengers are gone, Thor's gonna join Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Hulk is just gonna fizz out, is what I have a feeling. You know?
Yeah.
Like, Thor's gonna be another character in a different storyline now, and so there's nothing for Hulk to continue on, you know?
Okay, well, before we go diving into talking about other films too much, I guess it's time for us to do final thoughts and grades, because I think we could still talk more about this movie, but we got to make this not a podcast as long as the film we saw.
There is no possible way that could happen. Like, we'd all die of old age first.
Wait, we didn't get to talk about Ronan.
Yeah, I feel like that should get a mention.
I felt really weird about that scene. I understand him, like, trying to cope with the fact that he lost his family, but was it really necessary to go to Japan and kill people? Basically, did I just miss something? Or, like, I never understood why that was necessary.
I mean, they did say that before he went to Japan and serial killed a bunch of people, he went to Mexico and serial killed a bunch of people. Yeah. I mean, we all process our grief in different ways. Some of us are like Thor and become alcoholics. Some of us are like Hawkeye and get a bad haircut and become serial killers who kill brown people.
Is it necessary? No. It doesn't quite make sense to me. Like, that's the narrative they went with, and that he gets to not be in prison at the end. Because the implication is he's only killing baddies, but there's nothing we ever see that suggests that he is, other than we're supposed to trust that he is right.
I mean, that just makes me think of that line in True Lies when Jamie Lee Curtis is just like, you killed people? And he's like, they were all bad people. That makes it okay.
Okay, it's time. Final thoughts and grades. Trang, you're up first. Go.
My final thought is I really enjoyed this movie. Despite some obviously like, we're gonna like a movie, but there's always gonna be something about movies that we don't agree with or whatever. So I have that about this, but I overall enjoyed it. I would definitely watch it again. I would give it, a solid B.
All right, B it is. All right, we go to you, Alex.
Well, I didn't hate it as much as I hated the F double fucking minus that was Infinity War. But I also am never gonna feel the need to watch this movie again. I'd be willing to watch, like, basically the final battle once everybody shows up because, and some of the bits with the fight with Thanos, but even then, like, the way Thanos is basically, his power level is literally whatever you have plus 5% gets really boring, and I didn't care for that either. So, I mean, it gets a D.
Damn,
Whoa.
that's harsh.
It went from
Ouch.
a B to a D. Dang.
Well, I am here to pull the mood down.
Well, you're succeeding.
As the cynical curmudgeon.
All right, Stina, what about you?
I was going to give it a B+.
Oh.
I was largely because of how it emotionally affected me. And just watching the whole audience really get into the portions where everyone came back, and I give it a B+. Definitely not an A, though. Definitely not an A.
There could have been things that were done better, so.
Absolutely. That's why I'm not giving it an A.
All right, well, then it's left to me. So I actually really enjoyed this movie. I've actually seen it twice because I wanted to see it again when we decided we were doing this podcast, and I wanted it to be a little fresh, so I saw it late last week, and it was, or this week, whenever. I saw it sometime. It doesn't matter. I generally really liked it. I'm glad, Alex, that you brought up the ending fight sequence, because personally, I really enjoyed almost all of that. A lot. And I really need to commend them for how well they did the mocap for Josh Brolin as Thanos. Because even though I know that he's a CG character, they did such a good job with making him seem real.
I mean, that is true.
That
they did great.
It's really impressive work when you look at it. And by the way, there's stubble. He has stubble on his face. They went to so much detail and gave him stubble.
He has stubble?
Like, if you do some really close, go and look at some real close-up shots of him. The amount of detail on his face is fucking amazing.
Well, I mean, when your chin is like a multi-buttocked posterior, it's really hard to do a good job shaving.
Yeah, and that's probably why he wants the stones. It just makes that job easier. So, but yeah, so overall, I really enjoyed it. There were a couple points where I felt that it fell a bit short. But I agree with you a lot, Stina, that so much of my grade is for emotional reaction. It's kind of like Last Jedi for me, that I didn't really care as much about plot holes and things like that. Like, they're there in Last Jedi, and I just didn't give two shits because I got the emotional reactions that really matter to me as a fan. And I got so many of those in this. I laughed. I bawled my goddamn eyes out twice. I got all of these wonderful reactions, and I got to the end of it and I felt deeply satisfied. And so for that reason, I'm giving it an A-.
Ooh, that's awesome. See, now I want to watch it again right now. Literally, I want to rewatch it as soon as we're done.
Matinee! Go to a matinee! So, okay. All right. Well, I think we could keep going about some of the happy bits, but we should probably stop, because otherwise we'll be here and it'll be too late. And it's going to be Monday tomorrow. So thank you all for coming and doing this podcast with me. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. And I need to say something awkward.
I was just going to say thank you, everyone, for putting up with my shitty attitude.
No.
No, totally valid position.
No, you have totally valid. Exactly, totally valid. Don't ever apologize.
I feel so loved.
You should feel loved.
Don't let it get to your head too much.
Okay, I feel loved by everyone but Sean.
Sean just has to be a contrarian.
That's true. I mean, normally Sean is like the me that that in this episode where everyone else is like, oh my god, I'm happy, and Sean's like, bleh! And now it was my turn to be that. So Sean, how does it feel to not be you for once?
I will say you are not nearly as salty as I was when we did Force Awakens.
That's because it's literally impossible. Like, I would turn into some kind of, like, naked singularity of rage.
Oh god, it's bad. Yeah, so I it's very much more tolerable. Just say that.
I appreciate it.
So, on that note, I will just offer a controversial, quick opinion, which is that the true hero of Avengers Endgame is the Rat.
Okay, yes! No. I can't believe that it didn't get mentioned, and I just want to say that, dude, no, the rat that in the van that steps on the thing so that Scott Lang gets spit out of the quantum realm.
Yeah, the rat that has a physics degree. Yeah,
and due to things that do not need to be explained because nobody likes hearing other people talk about their D&D characters. Anyway, in my household, all rats are now named Henry, so Henry is the MVP of Endgame.
Best rat ever.
Oh my god, I've been enlightened, guys. I did not even realize that. Oh my god.
You're going to be really surprised when they make the next Avengers movie and that rat has 4 turtles.
Oh my god.
All I want is to see, like, Captain Marvel... Well, no, not Captain Marvel, because she's got Goose, but maybe, like, Falcon or Scott, and then Henry will be standing on his shoulder.
Whispering in his ears, giving him wisdom.
Yes!
That would be awesome.
And then we'll have the greatest crossover ever as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles enter the MCU.
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
Oh gosh.
Shush. It's happening. I will have it. And that's the end of this podcast because I've got to stop it. So, awkward ending and scene.
Welcome, citizens.
Bye.
If you would like to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/SkiffyandFanty or find us on Twitter @SkiffyandFanty, our webpage, SkiffyandFanty.com, or you can even send us an email at SkiffyandFanty@gmail.com. The intro music for this podcast was taken from Rock Thing by Creo. You can find out more about their music on freemusicarchive.org.